Ambassador Zixthala had seen many worlds in her 3 centuries of diplomatic service to the Galactic Confederation, but none quite like Earth. The orbital station's viewing deck offered a pristine view of the blue-green marble below, deceptively beautiful for what the xenobiologist had classified as a Class-Duthine Deathworld, the highest rating on the lethality scale. "Impossible," she whispered, watching the tactical display update in real time. The human fleet was systematically dismantling the hegemony's Third Armada, using what appeared to be toys. Admiral Corvin of the Altarian Navy stood beside her, all 4 of his arms trembling slightly. "Ambassador, I've commanded fleets for 40 years. I've seen plasma cannons that could crack moons, particle accelerators that bend space-time itself. But this..." He gestured helplessly at the holographic battle display. "They're using children's playthings to destroy our most advanced warships." The first sign something was amiss had come 6 months ago, when human delegates arrived at the Confederation Summit. They'd brought gifts, as was customary, simple toys from their homeworld. Zixthala remembered the delegation's children playing with them in the station's common areas while their parents negotiated trade agreements. There was young Emma, barely 8 standard years old, spinning a metallic top that seemed to defy gravity. The crystalline researchers had been fascinated by its properties, unable to explain how such a simple device maintained perfect gyroscopic stability in zero-G environments. Another child, Marcus, had constructed elaborate structures using magnetic spheres and connecting rods. The engineering corps had marveled at the mathematical precision of his creations, not realizing they were witnessing the fundamentals of adaptive architecture that could reconstruct itself under different gravitational conditions. But it was little Arya's paper airplanes that should have been the warning. Folded from what humans casually called notebook paper, they had flown with impossible efficiency through the station's corridors, somehow maintaining lift in the recycled atmosphere. The aerodynamics professor from New Vega had spent weeks trying to reverse engineer the design. "How were we supposed to know?" Zixthala asked herself aloud. How could anyone predict that a death world would produce children who treat cosmic principles as playground activities? The battle footage continued streaming, human vessels themselves looking more like oversized versions of children's building blocks than proper warships were, deploying swarms of what the tactical computer labeled as enhanced recreational projectiles. To any observer, they looked exactly like the foam rockets and rubber balls the human children had been playing with months earlier. But these toys moved with predatory intelligence. They curved through space in impossible trajectories, phasing through shields that had never been designed to stop something traveling in non-Euclidean paths. When they struck hegemony vessels, the results were catastrophic. Hulls didn't just breach, they unfolded like origami, following crease patterns that shouldn't exist in 3-dimensional space. "Sir," a communication officer called out, "we're receiving a transmission from the human fleet commander." A hologram materialized before them. Captain Sarah Chen, looking remarkably calm for someone who was single-handedly revolutionizing space warfare. "Confederation vessels, please maintain safe distance. We're field testing some new equipment." "Captain Chen," Admiral Corvin managed, "what exactly are those weapons?" Chen smiled, and there was something distinctly childlike in her expression despite her adult features. "Oh, these? We call them advanced playground protocols. Remember how our kids were playing during the summit? Well, our engineers got curious about what would happen if we scaled up their toys using Deathworld physics." The implications hit Zixthala like a cold wave. Earth wasn't just a death world because of its crushing gravity, toxic atmosphere, or radiation-bathed surface. It was a death world because its very physics operated on principles that would kill most galactic species to even contemplate. And human children played in those physics like other species' children played in safe, sanitized environments. "You see," Chen continued conversationally while her fleet continued its devastating assault, "when you grow up on a planet where tossing a ball requires calculating planetary rotation, atmospheric density, and gravitational variance just for basic play, you develop certain intuitions. Our children's toys aren't just entertainment, they're survival training for cosmic mechanics." A new wave of projectiles deployed from the human ships. These ones looked like yo-yos, complete with strings that seemed to stretch across impossible distances. They struck the hegemony flagship, and somehow managed to wrap around it despite the vacuum of space. The strings contracting with force that compressed the massive dreadnought into a sphere small enough to fit in a child's palm. The spinning tops teach gyroscopic control and variable gravity fields, Chen explained, as if giving a lecture rather than commanding a battle. The paper airplanes introduce aerodynamics in impossible mediums. The building blocks train adaptive construction under shifting physical laws. And the yo-yos? Well, they teach energy conservation and momentum transfer across dimensional boundaries. Admiral Corvin's tertiary arms were now shaking uncontrollably. But they're just playing. How can child's play become this? Chen's smile widened. Admiral, when your playground is a death world, your play becomes what other species call weapons of mass destruction. Our children don't learn to fear physics. They learn to dance with it. And when you scale up that dance... She gestured to the battlefield where the last hegemony vessels were surrendering. The communication ended, leaving the viewing deck in stunned silence. Zixthala finally understood why the human diplomatic mission had been so successful. They hadn't come to negotiate as equals. They'd come to introduce the galaxy to concepts their children had mastered before losing their first teeth. Every toy demonstration had been a subtle show of force, a gentle reminder that humanity's everyday reality operated on principles that could reshape civilizations. What do we do now? Admiral Corvin asked weakly. Zixthala watched as the human fleet began rescue operations, their toy weapons seamlessly transforming into medical equipment and reconstruction tools. The same spinning tops that had disabled enemy engines were now powering life support systems. The paper airplanes had become atmospheric processors, somehow creating breathable environments around damaged ships. We learn, she said quietly. We learn that when Deathworld children play in the dirt, they're not just making mud pies. They're practicing to remake the universe. In the aftermath, the Galactic Confederation would establish new protocols for first contact, specifically regarding the observation of native recreational activities. The human toy accords would become required reading for all diplomatic personnel, though most species found the physics involved too dangerous to study directly. And somewhere on Earth, a group of children continued playing with their toys, unknowingly preparing for humanity's next leap into the cosmic playground that other species called impossible space. After all, when your backyard is a death world, the universe is just a bigger sandbox.